Hello, and welcome to COMP3218 at the University of Southampton's Game Design course. We will be Let's Playing the Coursework 2 prototypes that the students have built. I'm Adrian Chapman, a lecturer on the course, and with me today is...
Hi, I'm Callum. I'm a PhD student and a demonstrator on the course.
Could you tell us, Callum, what we've asked the students to do for this particular coursework?
Yes, so for this coursework, they're asked to make a story game, particularly so they needed to have a narrative engine, so that the story and the game world can interact with each other.
Awesome. Let's take a quick look at our first game.
Okay, so the first game is A Fable of the Owl and the Grasshopper.
Excellent. It looks like a very nice start.
Yeah. Hold on. Okay, so we have, presumably for once we've played through a couple times, a little shortcuts to the endings.
I will say, given one of the things that we say is we have to be able to play these in about 10 minutes as a prototype system, and it's kind of nice at least knowing there are 3 endings, even if we don't get to them all.
And we got some nice credits, so that's good.
That's really nice.
Okay, let's see what we've got. Ooh. Can you hear the game sounds?
A lot, but I think you might want to turn it down for the recordings.
Probably a bit loud. Okay, it won't let me access my sound settings. Right, we'll try that again.
Yeah. Yeah, I have to pull up the mixer first. Sorry, I should have said that.
Where's the mixer? Right, I'll put the mixer over here. Okay. That's a bit more manageable, I think.
Much better. So you've got a day 1 up in the left-hand corner. You've got 3 actions remaining, and a J up there.
I assume that's a journal.
Yep.
Okay. So
All
we've
right.
got 3 days and a page of extras.
All right.
Nice. Ooh, that is very smooth. I can't jump. Ooh.
Oh.
Press E to sleep. You have remaining actions.
Okay, so you effectively have some control over the days. Ooh, you've got a chair, but we don't know how to do something in the chair.
Apparently, all I can do, I have to sleep in the chair. I don't own a bed.
No bed for you.
I spent all my money on this very large house. Ooh. I guess. Ooh. I can spend one action point talking to Robin.
Oh, do we want to? This is interesting. Let's see who else is around. Funnily enough, these particular assets have been used in many of our games this year.
Yes, they do look very familiar.
Yes.
There's a church. Apparently that's a church.
Okay, church.
It's not
church-like, but that's okay. More in-like, but that's okay.
I suppose this could be an alternate universe where alcohol has religious qualities.
Absolutely. I mean, we tried to do that in quarantine in this country, right?
Okay, this is much churchier. But there's nothing in here. Okay.
So
maybe I should go talk to Robin.
So, interestingly, that going into that was not an action.
No.
Talking to Robin was, but entering the church was not.
And a tavern and an owl house. And someone called Scarlet.
I want to talk to Scarlet.
Okay, we'll talk to Scarlet. Yes. Aren't you Robin's cousin? Oh, Robin's our cousin.
Okay, Scarlet's announced to Robin. Who's Robin?
Robin was the guy outside our house.
Okay.
Which I guess makes sense if they're our cousin.
Yeah. Alright, Scarlet's worried about
being
your uncle, or our uncle. Her father, I'm not sure which.
Okay, I think we should probably go talk to Robin. That might clear things up.
Maybe.
Scarlet of House Owl.
Hmm.
Okay. We have vowed to be wed 3 days from now. Oh, right, so he's looking for Scarlet's father's approval.
Mm-hmm.
Apparently they've not got a great relationship. Okay. That's... Well, we've got a conflict.
Yep.
That's something. We've only got one more action, so who should we talk to? We've got an old man. We've got a baker.
I don't know. We already talked to Scarlet.
And it's one of these two.
Yeah.
I'm here with the baker. Let's see what he has to say.
Let's do it.
Ooh.
Yes. Okay.
Rivalry. Interesting.
Okay.
I don't know why two houses having a rivalry would make it harder to sell bread, but
No. Okay.
I'll trust what he says.
But we have
So
no...
we've got these notes in our journal.
Yep.
What happens if I try to talk to this guy? Ow. Okay.
Okay. So we can go back home and sleep in our comfy chair.
That was very quick sleeping. Okay, nice.
Which is fine. I don't really want to watch him sleeping.
Scarlet's moved.
People moved around. I don't want to talk to Scarlet, no.
And Robin's still here. Okay.
Yep. Let's go
anyone in the church?
Exactly.
Church is still empty.
Okay.
I feel like it might remain empty until there is some kind of wedding. We've already spoken to the baker. Ooh. Ibis.
Oh yeah, he's one of he's the father, isn't he?
Unfortunately, we've lost the old man, but oh well. He looks very active, ready to pounce at any moment. Oh. He's glad to see the conflict end. I didn't know it had ended.
Yeah.
Okay, we've been invited to a party. I guess we'll go inside. It is a very, very boring party.
It's dress up. Do you see the suits of armor?
Can't interact with anything in here. Okay, maybe I need to go talk to the other two first.
Oh.
Wait, can I go into the bakery? No, the tavern, sorry. I'm gonna ask Robin what's going on. Great news. Scarlet's got his father's direct blessing. Celebrate with drinks at the tavern.
Okay.
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 So we've got no actions left, but at least we know that
tomorrow we have
tomorrow
to go to
there's a wedding. Can I talk? Wait, can I talk to Scarlet again? No. Okay. Okay, I guess we'll go sleep again.
Yeah.
Ooh, changing music and everyone's gone.
Which one's the tavern?
That
I want to go to the party.
I feel like before the tavern they should be at the church, right? But there's no one in here. Okay. I guess we'll check out the... We'll check out the tavern. Oh, sorry. Just got a call on Discord. I will have to close that. Okay. Apologies for that. Right, we're in the tavern. We have a mercenary, a sellsword, Robin, Scarlet.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, I want to talk to the sellsword because I'm kind of bored of talking to them.
Yeah, they haven't said much.
He wonders what Ibis is up to. Ooh. He's been hiring sellswords? That's,
Somebody's gonna kill Robin!
I feel like we should probably warn him. Okay, we can't warn him.
Yeah, I don't want to talk to Scarlet either. Could we get into Owl House?
We can.
Oh, but nothing's here still, huh?
Oh, the old man's over here. Let's talk to the old man.
Yeah.
He's been awfully busy. Oh, that wasn't very helpful. Oh. Take letter. Time is now, sons and daughters. It will all end. Okay, he's going to murder everyone. Cool. That's,
evil.
But I can't do anything about it because
We're out of days, aren't we?
we're out of actions, so I just have to go for a nap, I guess.
Yes. All these actions are tiring.
We found out there was a plot to murder my immediate family, and I'm gonna go to bed.
Time for bed. Time for bed.
Oh, okay, right.
Oh.
Exciting. It is possible that all of this is entirely unrelated to the wedding, and he just happens to be planning to take over a different town.
I guess.
But I feel like we should probably warn them and pass
Yeah,
on
let's
to the police.
do that.
Oh. And there's like a monk dude in the corner.
Yeah, what is that?
Oh, I think he's supposed to be the priest?
Sure.
Okay. So we got Ibis arrested, and everyone
lived happily ever after.
That
the
is
end. So
okay.
How about this? I think so. We've kind of seen it pass through this world, and I think what I'd like to do now is I'm going to start taking us through the marking criteria. And I'd like you to play this towards a different ending. So, for example, in this case, before we got to that final scene where we had the choice of the three endings, we had both the letter and the mercenaries' contract, right?
Yeah.
If you could find your way to play through this game so you either have one or none of those, can we see if we get to that point if there's a change in what our options are?
Let's do it.
All right, you do that, and I will start walking us through the marking criteria. So in these games, what we do is we judge for quality, fulfilling the brief, design element, and how they've incorporated feedback they've been given. Usually we'll start up in the quality, and the first one is presentation, so information, design, and aesthetics. So what we're looking for here is whether key information is shown clearly, whether the graphics are consistent, and there is an appropriate use of audio. One of the things actually I want to ask, so I can hear some of the little background music. Is it just a general background music, or when you enter the tavern, does the door unclick? When you talk to people, is there any other mumbling sounds or anything else, or is it just background music?
I think it's just background music. It does change based on where you are occasionally.
Well, that's very nice, actually. So it gives you a hint of a scene as well as the visual scenery.
Yeah.
Excellent.
So if I go into the church, for instance, this slightly jaunty thing gets replaced with some kind of choral piece.
Yeah, choral thing. Okay. Great. Very nice. So key information that we have here, we have the day you're on, we have the remaining actions you have, and you have the journal. You also have how to enter, right, and whether you can or cannot enter the tavern or the church or somebody else's building.
Yeah.
And you have the dialogue boxes, and I think all of them are displayed well. In fact, I kind of enjoy, even though it's jarring and it does not fit kind of the feeling of the town, I love the red line saying, like, this is a place where an action can be performed.
Yeah.
think they've actually done, so excellent in this case is a key information is shown clearly, consistent and appealing graphics, and a good use of audio. And I think we're clearly there across all of those categories.
Yeah, I think perhaps the only potential issue I would have with the information design is that a lot of the text is very small, which,
yes,
depending on what size of screen you're playing on, might be a little bit awkward for some people to read, but other than that, yeah, it's pretty good.
Yep, I would agree, and some feedback I would say is actually that remaining actions in the day, bump that font up a little bit, and the same with you can enter this door or not. So we're looking now at our next criteria. It's gameplay, mechanics, and control. So what we're looking at now is the mechanics that they've given us to work with, how they interact, whether they are a set, whether they interact well, and then the controls. So actually, the controls are fairly easy. Are they intuitive? Do they feel smooth as you play?
Yeah, I mean, the controls they're pretty straightforward. The movement is nice.
Okay.
There's not a huge amount to move around, but the movement's pretty good, and like the controls that are there are good. I think partly there's just not much to control.
Absolutely.
But they are well done. Let's see what happens. The last ending.
So here you got to an ending, and actually that screen before, where you had a choice, was completely different based on the information that you had managed to collect during the game.
Yeah, so if you only find one of the pieces of evidence, it seems that that's not enough to get anyone arrested.
Right.
So instead they just run away.
Okay.
So now we have unlocked all 3 endings.
Did we?
Yeah, so the first one you can do very simply by just sleeping 4 times in a row.
Right. Sorry, I missed that one.
You can roleplay a narcoleptic if you want.
Right. Okay, so let's actually talk about the mechanics. You can run through this in whatever way you want at this point. So let's talk about the mechanics that they give us to play with. So we can walk up to any character we want, and we can... Whoa, what is this? This is still the ending, huh?
Yeah, this is the first ending where you don't do anything.
Right. All right. Brutal. So you can choose to interact with a character. You can choose to go into buildings where there may or may not be evidence that you can find. You can choose to interact with your journal so that you can see what your actions and your knowledge gained has been. Are there any other mechanics that are presented to us besides talking to people, finding evidence, journaling, and then finally doing that final choice, I guess?
No, that's pretty much it. I guess you can go through doors, but I would probably include that in the walking around part of things.
Walking around, the exploring other buildings, exactly. And then the question we kind of have here is are these, I actually think that these are all complementary with the story, but are these a set of mechanics, or are these a wide set of complementary mechanics? And I'm not entirely sure that we're at the wide set yet, but I feel like we've got a few more than just a set, right? So we're doing more than just talking to people with our journal. We're going around and we are also exploring.
I kind of disagree. I think I would definitely say that this is a pretty small set of mechanics. Like, even because it's pretty much just talking to people, and you get these text boxes and you can press next, but you don't actually interact with them. People just talk at you.
Yeah.
So you just kind of passively absorb information and walk around. And then at the very end you get to choose which ending you want.
Sure. So let's think. So an example of a wider set of complementary mechanics would be when you get to the the mercenary at the end, perhaps you have a drunken duel with him and gain the information from him if you win. And then you can have the mechanics of an RPG style, battle.
So, I take it back slightly. It is slightly more complicated than I had thought. It turns out that you can gain access to buildings. For instance, you can get access to the tavern a day early if you talk to the baker. So
there's some unlocking. So how about this?
It's slightly more interesting.
I have a feeling we might be somewhere between a set of complementary mechanics and a wide set of complementary mechanics. I think we're falling down there. So what about bugs? Have you seen any bugs in this?
I have not seen any bugs, but to be honest, I think it's simple enough that I would be very surprised if there were any bugs.
Yes.
I can't think of any way that I could possibly break this because it doesn't really seem like there's much interaction going on between systems.
Okay, so in the good category, we're basically it's playable. We've got reasonably complex, but they're only minor bugs, and those are uncommon. We haven't seen any, which is up in the excellent, but because we're not quite at that complex part, we're probably kind of down at that good level, where. Yeah, it's playable, but because it's not so complex, there are no obvious bugs. We kind of come in between those two categories.
Yes. What else do I talk about? I need to talk to.
Let's talk a little bit about the story engine. So what we're looking for is a story engine that is integrated with the game world. And there are examples where the story impacts the game world and/or the story is impacted by events from the game world. And so here's one of the places where I think we're going to have some trouble because of how simple this particular game is. So I think we have a simple story engine that has limited integration with the game world. So there's an example of how we can see how the story is impacted by events from the game world, but I'm not entirely sure that I see how the story impacts the game world.
Yeah, so there is exactly one respect in which that happens, which is that on the second day, you can't go into the tavern or into Owl House until you talk to either of the people outside of them.
Right.
So, technically, if you talk to the baker, you gain access to the tavern for some reason, or if you talk to Ibis, you gain access to his house. But that is very limited in its scope.
Very limited. Yep.
Oh, actually, I take it back. So, if you don't talk to the baker, you can't enter the tavern on the third day either. Which means you can't talk to the sellsword, which is one of the two pieces of evidence you need to unlock one of the endings.
Right.
So in that case, I guess, choosing to not talk to the baker prevents you from getting one of the possible outcomes, narratively. So, there is some interaction between them.
So we have an and situation. However, I'm not actually saying that we have huge number. There's some. So we're at some examples, and we have an and, which is basically at the good level. So I'm glad we found that set of interactions. Let's talk about agency. So what we're looking for is an interactive story with several branching points and interesting choices, and a few attempts to manage player agency, for example, using topology or narrative patterns or the illusion of choice or any of the others. So we definitely have an interactive story with branching points, with several branching points. We at least have 3 endings. And as you've seen now, depending on your choices, you can prune off certain branches that you just can't make it into anymore, right? So you can't collect the evidence if you can't get into the bakery. Do we have interesting choices?
So I think the main issue I have with that is that it's very hard to tell what choices. Like, for instance, the fact that talking to the baker is one of the options that allows you to finish the game.
Yep.
It's pretty much impossible to predict that. So, because
Yes.
why would talking to the baker give you access to the tavern? Like, granted, he is stood next to it, but
Yep. But why would that be important, right? So I actually agree with you. So I think one of the problems that I'm struggling with right now is, why. Personally, I don't want to stop talking to Scarlett. She has provided us with no useful information in the whole game, right? But we wouldn't know that. She seems critical to this story, versus this baker, he's a baker. Maybe he'll make the wedding cake. Why should we bother talking to him? So I can't make an informed decision about which character to talk to just because they're standing in front of a shop. So I feel like we have we do have an interactive story with branching points. I'm actually struggling a little bit with that interesting choices.
yes.
So let's actually now talk about player agency. So are there any attempts to manage the player agency? So using topology, narrative patterns, illusion of choice, anything in this?
I suppose the fact that you only have 3 actions per day, or rather you can only talk to 3 people because the only action is talking to people,
Yes.
is a way of managing agency. Because,
Yeah.
if, for instance, on the second day, you were to talk to Robin and Scarlett, who are both right outside your door, then you can only gain access to one of the buildings, and you can't get that third ending.
Yep, I agree with that. So I think we're actually, so in a good category, it's several branching points, some interesting choices, and a few attempts to manage player agency. And we clearly have the attempts to manage player agency, and we have branching points. We're a little bit concerned about that interesting point, so we're not taking it all the way down to satisfactory, but kind of in between the two.
I think I would also say that although there are technically branching points, it's not. There's really only one, arguably two, branching points, which is whether you gain access to the tavern or the owl house.
Yep.
And after that, that essentially locks you into either you can achieve all the endings or you can't.
Yes.
So
Yes.
it's not. There's not any significant branching. So I think I'd be tempted to go more on the low end for that.
Right. Okay. So I think that's. I mean, so there are. So what I'm hearing is there are these branching points, but then I think this is actually tied in with the second point. Is it's not an interesting choice, right? So you get this branching point, you're making kind of an uninformed choice, and then that's it. That's the only way to get to that set of endings. So it's not so much a branch as it is just a dead end. So then let's take a look at the design. And so design elements, we're going to start with poetics. And what we're looking for here is for narrative and gameplay complement one another as the key mechanics are in keeping with the themes of the story. And I actually feel like we struggle here a little bit because, I mean, the story that we're unfolding here is, it's Romeo and Juliet plus an army of intrigue, and all we're really doing is running around talking to people. There's no battles, there's no kissing, there's no balcony climbing. So I'm struggling a little bit about kind of the poetics of this particular one. So we might be at narrative and gameplay do not interfere with one another, but key mechanics have little to do with the themes of the story.
Yeah, I think I would actually disagree. I think I would say that they do interfere with each other because the fact that the fact that you have limited interactions and you can only talk to a set number of people per day is is the only thing that kind of prevents you from just exhaustively going around and hitting everything until you've worked it out. But
Yeah.
the issue with that is that then you run into a situation where you can't talk to a person because you've already talked to three other people that day, which is very, I think, if the narrative is supposed to be based on that, you're a member of this town and you're walking around talking to other people, it feels like that kind of clashes with the idea that either you're just having a fun time walking around, or if you're actively trying to.
Yeah.
If the premise is that you're actively suspicious of the other household and you're trying to find out their plot, why would you just give up after three people?
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah. So for example, I have seen games like this in the past, and some really nice solutions to this is, you can see the day getting darker and people start going indoors, right? So there's just fewer people to talk to as the day progresses.
Yes.
And so that would actually be something where the mechanics and the narrative, and it would still force that player agency down, right? You're still then containing that player's or managing the player's agency. Because there's fewer and fewer people to talk to because it's dark, they're going to bed, but you can still choose to run around and, you're right. So that would actually be one where the narrative kind of goes with the themes of the story and the gameplay goes with the themes of the story. So I think, all right, so we're down at narrative and gameplay have some conflicts. Some mechanics go against the themes of the story. We all the way down there, or are we somewhere between that and narrative and gameplay don't interfere with each other?
I don't think it's a huge issue, so I'd probably put it between
them. Yeah.
It's not like it's a serious interruption of the narrative or anything, or that it completely works against the theme. It's just kind of frustrating.
Yes, I agree with that. So let's talk about techniques. So what we're looking at techniques is for pacing, and then we're also looking at multiple game writing techniques such as dialogues, in-game information, scripted events, cutscenes, and media res, ellipsis. So let's talk about actually some of the writing techniques. So we have actually a few in this game. We've got our dialogue boxes, we've got our journal, and we also have at the very end, effectively when you finish, there's a cut scene. It's not a cut scene because it's not between the two scenes, but it's that final scene is effectively that cut scene. So we have three very separate game writing techniques. I think they did well with that. So yes, they have more than one game writing technique, and now the question becomes pacing. So some of our options, I don't think we're all the way down at pacing is unclear or flat. They're at least trying to do it with the days going by, although I'm not entirely, maybe we are pacing is unclear and flat, and that's what I'm struggling with. We started talking about this, that you could just walk around and people stop talking to you, and why would you bother? And then you just sleep for a day, and then and why bother?
I don't think the pacing is entirely flat. I just think it's kind of clunky. For the first 2 days you talk around and Scarlett talks about the fact that they're getting married and that's great, and the baker complains a bit and nothing much happens. Then the second day you walk around and you gain access to a couple more places and nothing much happens. Then on the third day you discover that this guy is plotting to murder your cousin. Which immediately brings the tension from nothing is happening to people are about to die. And then, at the end, either he gets arrested or your cousin gets murdered. So I think there is pacing, it's just not even slightly subtle.
Right. So how about this? How about in Satisfactory we have some ascending pacing, which I think is kind of what you're describing here. And up in Good, we have use of more than one game writing technique. So I think we're falling smack between these two categories. Now, I'm going to go off and look at the feedback for this particular game. So we ask all the students to at least tell us about their games while they're under development. We provide feedback to them, and then we ask them to reflect on that feedback and then tell us how they've changed their game. So in this case, the students were given the feedback of, oh look, themes of Romeo and Juliet versus Grasshopper and Owl theme might confuse the theme being portrayed. This might feel like a large crowbar to fit in. And their response was, instead of creating a Romeo and Juliet spin-off where the overall theme is tragedy, we modified our storyboard plan and created our own character names and profiles so the player didn't have any Romeo and Juliet tragedy preconceptions. So I think they heard it. I think they did indeed, and they made some good decisions there. I think if we'd gone in expecting Romeo and Juliet, we possibly would have been even further jarred with the multiple endings, since we all know how that one ends. So another piece of feedback that was given was, consider going up to there. So yeah, so they use their own narrative. They try to do deception and flattery to end House Grasshopper. There's a lot of they thought in here. They took inspiration from Game of Thrones. That didn't quite come across in this very simple game, but it's obvious their narrative attempt was there.
I think so. I don't actually remember off the top of my head, but the Grasshopper and the Owl. What was what is the actual theme of that one?
I can't remember what that one is.
Because I'll be honest, I did just think that this was supposed to be like a twist on Romeo and Juliet, and they just picked Grasshopper and Owl for house names.
Yeah. So the owl sleeps during the day, and then the owl, she gets older, she's cross and hard to please, and the grasshopper starts playing, and then the grasshopper, the owl asks the grasshopper to be quiet, the grasshopper just picks up a louder tune, and the owl realizes she can't really do anything, so she, instead of yelling at him, she speaks kindly, and she says, if I'm going to, I'm just going to nest here, if I'm going to listen to your beautiful playing, come closer so I can enjoy this, and share a drink with me. And the grasshopper was taken in by the owl's foolish words, or flattering words, and jumped into the owl's den where she ate him. So basically it's around those lies, flattery, and deception, which they did try with that final scene with Ibis and so anyways, back to the feedback they were given.
Yes.
Place more story focus on what happens with the player's story with Romeo and Juliet in the background. Consider how gameplay affects narrative. For example, player gaining trust with somebody in the opposing house in order to access new areas and interactables. So they put more emphasis on the player's perspective of the world. However, the ending sequences are still primarily built around the other characters that the player interacted with due to heavy planning that we had already outlined. We incorporated a total of 4 pivotal actions in which the gameplay changes the narrative options available to the player. However, we argued that every interaction impacts the player's narrative journey. Then they actually, so I will say one of the most amazing things here is kudos for doing some play testing. They provided some feedback that they got from playtesting, which I'm very happy with. The playtester didn't realize the letter and contract were added to the journal, so missed this feature. They changed the manual displayed when it was found. The playtester ended the day prematurely on the first day by accident, so they have a nice warning prompt. Yeah, so they went through, and that's really well done, doing some playtesting. In terms of the other feedback and how they adapted to it, so they definitely heard it, and I think some of what's kind of either gone wrong here is they had such a huge story that they, there was obviously this world that they had built, and it just didn't really come through in this simple game, right? So the dialogue with the characters wasn't rich enough, the choices that we had weren't rich enough. I had no idea who was who in terms of House Owl versus House Grasshopper, whatever they were. So yeah, it kind of goes back to that. We weren't making meaningful decisions while playing. We were just randomly talking to people.
Yeah, And I think that comes down to a handful of things. Like, a lot of that could have been solved like through environmental design. Like, if the house that we started in had like big grasshopper banners on the walls, and then we go outside and our cousin's wearing the same color clothing. Like, there's a lot of very simple things you can do to get that across. You don't need to have someone stand there and say, I am a member of House Grasshopper, and I hate the people in House Owl for reasons.
Yep, agreed. 100%. So in this case, I think that they articulated the feedback well, and they made some changes, and I think it was just partially successful. I think they got tripped up in their own world that they were building and didn't take it far enough in some cases. All right, shall we move on to the next game?
Here we go. That is very loud. Yes.
Alrighty then. So let's do a playthrough and see what we're playing.
This is a very different energy already.
It really is.
Oh. Okay.
A chicken. I want a chicken in my bedroom.
It's a very Rambo-like character.
Okay, so can you interact with the chicken? The chicken's talking to you, dude? Eat less cheese at bedtime.
Looks happy to see me. Well, that's nice. Okay, so the chicken just looks at us. Ooh.
Right, but it is happy to see you.
Today is the day of the uprising. Press space to continue. It's weird that he says that out loud.
Yeah, well, I talk to myself too. We shouldn't judge.
No, I meant the press space to continue.
Ah.
I wonder which side will win. Who should I go lend a hand? Okay. Oh. Interesting. Oh, no. So what happens if I... Oh, I could have destroyed them. I think I was supposed to destroy them.
Right.
These are very heavy bullets. Given... Oh, and you can shoot the cones. So you can shoot the cones, but you can't walk into them. Alright. That's odd. Gonna get on top of the lights. Aha.
Mm-hmm.
So interestingly, if you walk towards an edge, you don't have to, without jumping, it will still force you to jump, which is a bit odd. But oh well, right. Is this... Am I meant to shoot him?
I'm struggling with this character. I mean, he looks too much like the Capitol uprising that happened. I'm having some cultural problems with that one right now.
Stay away from the box.
Okay. The imps.
But I want what's in the box. Okay, I can't open the box. I'm going to... So far I've been confronted with an angry skeleton with a sword and...
So interesting, when you killed that first skeleton, I don't think anything happened to your reputation. At least I didn't notice it. When you killed that second skeleton, your reputation with the skeleton went down by -1.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So, what I'm being confronted with here...
Every time you kill one...
What I've been confronted with here is, two different types of monsters that are apparently trying to take over the city I live in. So I'm just going to shoot all of them. Oh, that's a very big one.
Killing him actually increases your reputation for the other. So if you kill the...
that's not good.
The Capitol insurrectionist, then the skeletons are happy. And if you kill the skeletons, the Capitol insurrectionist is happy.
Oh, these people are insurrectionists.
Well, no. I'm purely, this guy looks like one of the people who, stormed the Capitol building in the U.S. The one with the horns.
I see, right. I assumed you were reading from the game notes.
No. Purely reacting to what I'm seeing.
I'm going to go into A2 first, because... Oh no.
Oh, so this is where the skeletons are hanging out. The last one was where all the horned people are hanging out.
Oh, a bed. Can I sleep in these beds?
Lots
No,
of
but I
beds.
can destroy beds, which is nice.
You can move them. It's a shame you can't. Whoa, there's your skeleton boss.
Do I get bonus damage for headshots? Oh. It ended. Okay.
Zone, and the imps left the city in ruin. Okay.
Okay.
Alright, so this one... Can we go through and only kill skeletons this time?
Sure, let's try that. Apparently I was the wicked one all along, but...
I do love talking to a chicken.
I wonder who should I lend a hand? Let's press space to continue. Why is there a big plus here? What does that mean? Alright, so I'll talk to this guy. Nice weapon. Not many ones like that around here. If you shoot me, I'll smash your face off. That seems reasonable. You reward all your friends. That is all the motivation I need to betray who I assume are an occupant. Whoa, these flying skeletons. That is very concerning.
Ooh,
oh no.
There's flying...
Oh, apparently I hit... Why are you beating me up? I'm helping you. Oh, I must have accidentally shot them a little bit. Okay. So what's in here? Hey. Yeah, I am helping you.
Yeah.
Okay. What's in here?
Skeletons.
Actually, I should probably not shoot wildly just in case there's something friendly up ahead. Bar stools, those are friendly. It's a bar, is it? I guess that makes sense, they're bar stools. So what happens if I... Oh! I didn't realise there was a guy there. Go on, beat me. I've been a bad insurrectionist.
Okay, so it seems like as soon as you accidentally hit one of them, they just beat you up, and you kind of maybe end at the anarchy ending.
Nothing
although maybe
to
we should
see
follow
in
that
this
through next
building.
time.
I disagree. Gotta be careful not to shoot him. Wait,
yes.
if I go further away. Okay. I'm not supposed to be here. I would like to talk to you. Oh.
Oh, are we talking to the leader? That isn't the big one the leader?
Maybe. Are you the leader? Oh, he is leader. Okay, you murdered all the skeletons. Oh!
Oh!
I didn't even kill all the skeletons, though.
Okay, how about this? Could you this time play it so that you kill all the skeletons and accidentally shoot one of the imps? And while you do that to see if it gets us to or you could just kill all the imps and see what the skeleton ending is. While we do that, I will start taking us through the marketing criteria again. So let's talk about presentation of information. So information design and aesthetics. There's definitely background music, and we can at least hear when the gun is firing, right?
Yes.
So we've got audio. We've got consistent graphics that evoke this dingy, guerrilla warfare style feeling. We have your health bar kind of hanging out in the middle there. The reputation is clear. Watching the numbers going up and down. And
Christ. No, I accidentally shot a skeleton.
Thankfully, the numbers are big enough to see that they were going up and down there for a bit. Okay, So in this case, I actually think that you've got key information is shown clearly, graphics are consistent and appealing. Oh, sorry. Key information is shown clearly, consistent and appealing graphics, good use of audio. I think we're just easily in that category.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk about gameplay. So let's talk about the mechanics that you have available to you. So you can interact as a narrative, with each of the characters that you haven't already shot at. You can choose to shoot with somebody or shoot somebody. You can push the boxes around. In fact, you have to push the boxes around in order to enter a building. Do we have any other major mechanics here?
You can... That does seem to be it.
I think so. So, walk around, talk to things. Yeah, you can talk to the chicken. I'm not sure we're going to count that as its own mechanic, though, much as I do love talking to the chicken. So, you can talk to things, you can shoot things, you can move boxes to get them out of your way. All right, then. Now, I'm not entirely sure that is a wide set of complementary mechanics at this point. I do think it's a set of complementary mechanics. Are the controls smooth and usable?
Mostly. The jumping is a little bit floaty, but it's not super important, so it's not a huge issue.
All right. So I think we're clearly at a set of complementary mechanics and smooth, usable controls. So at this point, we're looking at the bugs. The game is playable and reasonably complex, and there are no obvious bugs. The game is... have you seen any bugs?
I wonder if I can shoot the chicken. Okay, so you can't kill the chicken or the bed.
Well, we shouldn't really shoot up our.
Interestingly, you can destroy other beds. The only thing that might count as a bug is this slightly odd behavior when you walk around on the edges of platforms, but I'm not sure. That might be intentional. I don't know.
Right.
It just kind of throws you in the air whenever you get near the corner of a ledge.
I think we're not going to even count that as a bug. That's minor. We wouldn't count it as a bug. It's not.
Ooh.
Well, minor
actually,
bugs.
yeah, it might be here. So it might be there so that you can run upstairs like this.
Yes.
So I think that's probably intentional.
Okay. So I think we're kind of at the point. There's no obvious bugs. The game is playable. I think it's kind of a question, and I think it's reasonably complex.
Okay. Yeah. Interesting.
So let's talk about the story engine at this point. So what we're looking for is a story engine that is integrated with the game world. And there are examples where the story impacts the game world and the story is impacted by events from the game world. So in this case, the story is very clearly impacted by events from the game world. So basically, if you decide to ever shoot an imp, all the imps are always against you, and you get to the ending where you're either in anarchy or the imp lord kills you, and vice versa for the skeletons. Are there examples where the story impacts the game world?
Not really. So, like, you can talk to people, and you can talk to people, and I guess here, because I've got a high enough reputation, they don't attack me on sight, whereas the last time I came here, they just attacked me. But I think that's part of, like, I feel like the reputation, given that you get that from killing imps, arguably that's not the story. That's still part of the game world, is how high your reputation is.
Right.
But not really. Like, talking to the people doesn't change the state of anything. They just tell you, for instance, if I talk to this guy here, he just says, get 15 reputation, and then I will give you an ending.
Yep. Yep. So I feel in this case, I feel in this case we actually have a story engine that is integrated with the game world, but there's only an or in this case. In fact, we can only really see the stories impacted by events from the game world. So I think we're kind of halfway between those two categories, um, instead of clearly in one of them.
Yeah, I think. I think I'd agree with that. Oh.
Okay. So let's talk about agency. So what we're looking for is an interactive story with several branching points and some interesting choices. Um, it'd be great if we have attempts to manage player agency. So actually, here's one, and because I've been doing some of the walking us through the criteria, I haven't seen some of the details of all of yours. Oh, an allied ending. Right. So there are actually multiple endings here depending on oh, this is because of the skeletons. Did you kill any skeletons at all at this point, or were you completely skeleton killing free?
I did shoot a few skeletons, but because I also shot some imps, the reputation went high enough that when I went into their base, they were happy to see me.
Got it.
I guess makes sense, but it is interesting that you can kill half the skeletons in the game and they will still count you as an ally.
Well, we shouldn't be picky about our allies. Um, so in this case, so actually let's go back, and in this case, is this an example where the story impacts the game world? So in this case, you've killed just enough skeletons that your reputation is high enough that you can then go in. I'm sorry, you've killed just enough imps that you can go in, and the skeletons don't kill you in the skeleton base.
Well, actually, by default, they don't kill you. So I haven't interacted with anyone, and they're fine.
Right. Right.
I think if I was to shoot more skeletons, no, you're not a skeleton. Go away.
So here's my struggle with this one. We have several branching points, right? We have 3 endings at least here. Anarchy, imps kill us, or skeletons are our allies. I actually would argue that we have some interesting choices, right? So I think you're making choices. Well, how many imps can I kill? How many skeletons can I actually kill, or should I kill, or should I not fire on this? I saw you doing it at one point earlier. Should I fire on this imp? I've got it, or the box. You were firing at the box, and you were actually being very careful because you didn't want to accidentally hit the imp, right? So you actually have to make some of these choices as you're playing. So I think we've got several branching choices and some interesting choices, and the question becomes then, do we have any attempts to manage player agency? Topology, narrative pattern, illusion choice.
I don't think so. I think everything that looks like a choice is you can, because the choices are essentially, do you shoot these people or not, and you can shoot everyone you meet, and you can also, assuming you don't annoy them too much first, you can also talk to everyone you meet.
Yeah, I think so too. So I think that takes us kind of clearly into the satisfactory level. Poetics. What we're looking for here is how narrative and gameplay interact with each other, and then if the mechanics fit the theme of the story. So, in fact, I think the mechanics that you have actually do fit the theme of the story fairly well, right? It's betrayal and gang warfare or guerrilla warfare, and the mechanics are all around this. So I actually think there's a nice match between the mechanics and the theme of the story.
What did they say the theme of the story was?
Oh, I don't know actually.
How do they jump so high? It's very annoying. Okay.
At a quick scale, the Fable inspired us was the wolf and the crane. Okay.
Okay.
So in this case, they think the imps are portrayed as wicked, and the player serves the wicked. They are not rewarded with a good ending. So the character's dialogue often gives hints towards the imp's wicked role. The moral is in the ending the player experiences. So
I guess. I mean, the only dialogue really is that the imps say that the skeletons all suck, and the skeletons say that the imps all suck.
yes, I mean they claim that one of the first pieces of evidence come when you first talk to the bronze imp at the very beginning, but I'm not sure that was incredibly clear. So let's actually go back, even with the themes of the story. So you can kind of see in the Wolf and the Crane that there are these kind of ambiguous choices. You're not really sure who to root for, and that serving evil, particularly serving evil, doesn't help you. So I actually think the key mechanics are in keeping with the story. What about narrative and gameplay complement each other?
I suppose technically they do, because
I think they do complement each other. I'm not entirely sure they support one another, but I do think they complement one another in that they.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I found the bronze imp, and
Did you find the bronze imp?
yeah, he threatens our chicken.
Never.
So, to find the bronze imp, though, you need to go into the door hidden behind the box, and then run to the end without hitting anyone, so you can talk to him. So
right.
You have to really be actively seeking out this specific imp to be able to talk to him.
Yep.
And yeah, I wonder if I go back home, is the chicken still there? But there is evidence that the imps are bad.
The chicken's still there. Yes, because they threatened a chicken.
Oh my, there are imps in here.
I do like the humor in this one.
Okay, they have actually attacked my home. There's my chicken. He's safe.
Chicken's okay.
Interesting.
Bert is always happy to see you.
Oh.
Bert survived.
A secret chicken-based ending. Okay.
I love it. I'm glad we found the chicken-based ending. Why don't we talk about techniques?
Sure.
So the techniques is split into the two parts where we're talking about pacing and we're also talking about game writing techniques. In this, we have seen dialogues and anything else? In-game information, scripted events, cutscenes. Could you give us a good example?
At the end, we've got that the kind of epilogue screen, which is it's not quite dialogue, but it's pretty similar.
Yeah. Okay, so now let's talk about pacing. This is actually another one I kind of feel like there has been an attempt at pacing, right? You kind of go through this intro bit, then you go into either the layer of the skeletons or the layer of the imps, and you kill them all, and then you go to the other one and you make peace, or vice versa, or you kill them all, or you go see the chicken. But I'm not entirely sure. I feel like there's some ascending pacing, but I'm not entirely sure that there is ascending pacing with a clear final peak. Or maybe there is. Maybe I'm being a bit harsh. I guess the clear final peak is you can effectively boss battle either both parties or one party and then go see the other party.
Yeah.
Okay.
Interestingly, if you just leave the room, they forget that they're angry with you. So I can shoot these guys, and they'll hit me. And then if I just come back in, it's fine.
let's go look at the feedback that they were given. So, feedback for this particular game was feedback. Core dynamic for this game is destruction. You know what? I'm so happy somebody told them to think about what the core dynamic is. So this is highlighted by the requirement to destroy some physical barriers that are blocking progression, and the first NPC threatening the player not to shoot them. Many NPCs urge the player to kill the other faction. The player has the freedom of choice to kill any NPC. Great. And I actually think they heard that. I was very clear that the core dynamic was destruction. And it actually, I mean, this is why I think they scored so well in that fit the themes of the story, right? That the gameplay itself. Now, granted, the Wolf and the Crane is not necessarily about destruction, but all of the things, the mechanics that we were given, actually fit the story that was being told in this, set of factions taking over a city. Make sure decisions impact the story clearly. So each NPC kill tips the scale. That is the player's reputation with the faction, yes, as does the player's decided outcome of the side quest. The player can visually see they are affecting the narrative as the reputation is shown to them in the bottom left of the screen. And then, the player achieves one of several stories. I actually think the reputation was well done. That was well implemented. And then clearly reflect the moral of the story. The fable that inspires for this game is the Wolf and the Crane. The imps are portrayed as the wicked game, and the player, if the player serves the wicked. Right, so we missed the chicken the first half dozen plays, and we didn't really realize the imps were wicked. We thought the skeletons and the imps were kind of both evil wicked. So yeah, and then in fact the moral is reflected. Now we know the imps were the ones who just killed us at the end, as opposed to creating a peace treaty with us like the skeletons did. So I actually think that they heard the feedback, articulated it very well, reasonable changes that were successfully made. Right?
I guess. I'm not sure that they've successfully reflected the moral of the story, because even having found and spoken to this one imp, I'm still not really convinced that it's supposed to be teaching you that you shouldn't side with evil people, because it doesn't present the player with that kind of information that, they're wicked, until presumably after they've already made a decision. I imagine that if you were to give this to 100 people, maybe one of them would discover the dialogue with this imp. So I'm not sure that most of them wouldn't really see the evidence that the imps are evil. They just seem like they disagree with the skeletons.
I'm not willing to take them. Yep, I'm not willing to take them all the way down to the next category, which is with partial success, because I think they did hit most of the feedback well. It was just that one, but I will drop them in between the two categories. All right. And that is, I think, the end for this game. Let's move on.
Wait a minute. There's a fifth ending that we haven't seen.
Well, you've actually played it for quite a bit of time.
Okay. We'll have to accept that in one of the endings the chicken dies.